Right, golfers, let's talk about the reason why amateur golfers struggle to create compression, stop flipping down at impact, those kind of flippy, horrible strike kind of shots. Why we see the pros being able to do this with ease, why amateurs can't. Let's explain and help you out. So to kick this video off, I just want it to be clear that the word compression is very dangerous. So all balls are compressed when they hit, and we're not squeezing anything against anything. The ball bounces or kind of squishes against the face, deforms, and then shoots off. So don't try and feel like you're trying to compress something, which often that term kind of insinuates. But we do want the strikes up the face. We want handling. We want to get rid of bouncing clubs on the back of the ground by leading with the head as the handle's kept behind collapsing impacts. These common issues that golfers struggle with. Now, what we find when we look at amateurs to pros is this very common pattern where we see amateurs creating not that much room on the way back, more room on the way down, and then they're literally chucking everything away from them and getting those floppy impacts that we see down at the bottom. You see it from those two amateurs. They're both doing the same thing. They bring it quite into them and then they send it away on the way down, which kind of gets them stuck back here, and that's their trigger for the not so good impact position. We also, when we look at the pros, start to see a distinct difference, like a huge difference, a very different way of how much they stretch on the way back to then where they get in relationship to that position and that stretch on the way down. Now, they're actually keeping stuff almost kind of more connected to themselves before letting it go. So how can you make that change away from the classic amateur fold into that pro-like swing? So number one, we can literally try and create stretch on the way back. We need to create more width on the way back. But the way we do that is really key. So we don't want you just kind of swaying and stretching back, because this is actually going to cause more of an issue. What I want you to be able to do is try and feel like you're stretching on the way back, moving pressures onto trail foot really early, stretching your arms out and away from your body as it starts to recenter, get back to the ball, and you stretch your arms out. So we need this idea of feeling like you're moving almost this way on the backswing, where your body is moving this way and your arms are moving out away from you. For the downswing, to get this little bit more connection that we want, certainly in trail elbow, being much tighter to their lead or their trail sides as they come down, where with the amateurs we see them kind of get quite connected on the way back and then they start to throw it away, get loads of space on the way down, which is that flip. It's a simple drill you can use next time you're practicing to get the idea of these two movements almost going in separate directions, so your core to where your arms and the club stretch to. So what I'm going to do, I've got a 9-iron here. I'm going to take my normal stance, so my normal width of stance, got the ball kind of just forward of centre, but then I'm going to take my lead foot and bring it so it's opposite the ball. So I basically pointed my toes at the ball. Now I am going to make sure that my pressure now is between my 2 feet. So my pressure is back here. So in effect, I'm pre-sinking a takeaway position, where it's a common pattern we see with good players is they move a lot of pressure onto their trail foot at the start, and then as they start to recenter, as they make their backswing, we see the pressures evening out. Where with amateurs, what we actually see is them staying almost quite centered and then shifting loads of pressure, so they're starting their backswings from up here, which they just can't win the race down into impact. So we're presetting that early shift with this setup. Then what we're going to do, I want you to take the club back so it's halfway between first parallel and address, so just around this position, and then as soon as the club gets around to this position, I want this foot to get back into its original position. Now, as you do this idea, I want you to try and stretch your arms out away from this lead foot. So you're going to feel like the lead foot goes that way, but your arms go that way. So you're basically going to try and create loads of stretch, but you're not going to do it by simply swaying across. Getting you to order the backswing in this way is a pattern we see time and time again with pros, and one that we don't see working very well with amateurs. It's a kind of fundamental key factor to why everything else in the chain reaction gets into a bit of a muddle down at the key moment, the impact moment, where we need it nice and strong. And if you're feeling confident, nice bit of loft on your club, you can do a few shots this way. So again, foot opposite the ball, just that little bit of takeaway. As soon as it gets around here, take your stance back and then hit. You can hit shots. It takes a bit of coordination. You're going to hit a few duffs at the start, but you can actually take this to the range, to the practice area, and try and get this feeling into a movement that connects with a ball. Like I mean, it doesn't feel that unnatural to me because I'm going that way. I'm basically shifting this way and then I'm trying to center up on my backswing, where so many amateurs are staying really central and then they get dragged over here, or they stay really central, bring everything close as they just stand up and move over here, which then creates that space that we see and we don't want on the downswing to get those horrible broken down impacts. What you can also do with this is when you do the step, try and do the step quite hard. Use it as a bit of a jump, a trigger to get some speed. So when you're confident you're going to strike it, I really try and jump on that foot. So I really kind of almost stepping down and into it to then get out of it. And the strikes will absolutely become so solid. When I do this with golfers, what we start to see is them getting the idea of moving trail side, back to 50-50 as they stretch. That movement we need, because we need that stretch on the way back to then get everything coming closer to us on the way down to get this handled lean kind of impact that you want with your irons. Now you could also do this movement with your driver. I wouldn't expect you to hit many balls with this because it's going to be hard, but I'm going to put we bring the ball in actually, I'm going to hit my normal setup position. And now I'm not going to put the foot opposite the ball, I'm actually going to put it just behind the head of the club here, because obviously it's a wider stance and the ball's further forward. But same idea, as I start getting to around halfway between address and first parallel, I'm going to get that side while at the same time really trying to push my arms away, create some space to allow everything to get closer to then drive. Now remember, with the driver, subject to your grips and matchups, you're not going to be handle leaning so much, but we certainly don't want too much flicking forward. And we want an element of the club catching up and going forwards, but not too much like we see with the irons. Remember, the irons we're de-lofting, the driver we're sustaining subject to what you bring in speeds to adding loft. So they are slightly different, but the same fundamental movement can work if you want to improve the strikes. Now the next idea you can use to try and create some width and then getting it almost closer to you. So I don't mean you're holding angles here. I mean as you start down, because you move forwards and because this arm will actually go flatter across your chest, what'll happen is this elbow will come in towards you before letting it go. So again, the opposite to what we see the amateurs doing, which is almost chucking it away on the downswing. So what we're going to do with this drill is just hold on with lead hand only, trying to get some ideas of the head to the handle, to your hands, to your lead shoulder and arm. And then how they relate to your chest is really good for creating a much more kind of wicked pro-like impact position, you know, that kind of woo, boosh. So what I want you to do is just holding on with one hand, just your lead hand up to the top of the club. I want you to make a backswing where you feel like you create a bit of space between your chest and your lead arm. So you want to feel like you're not just putting your lead arm straight across your chest, you want to feel like it's away from you. Then as you start down, and if I hold this for any kind of length of time, like I'm already starting to almost shake a little bit because it's heavy, just let that club go, but turn your body. So what happens is your arm will now start to come across your chest a little bit more. So we call it lead arm abduction. It starts coming across your chest. This is what's going to bring the club so from an extended backswing to you dragging it towards you to then getting through and getting into these impacts. It's good to do it with a club that pushes you slightly to your physical limit, so you feel like you use your body to get that club up away from you, because again, if you just try and keep it across your chest and weak, it'll feel really kind of floppy. So you're going to use a nice stretched out arm, you're going to use your chest, your hips, just get it suspended above you. Even leave it there for 5 seconds until you still do start to really feel this tensing up, and then use that energy to just let go, just kind of let that club get across your chest. See how that's pulling my arms from a stretched out position in towards me to then let go. And again, you can work those ideas into your shot. So now I'm going to try and feel like I create space on the way back, lead arm and lead chest, and then I'm going to get it across my chest on the way down for those wicked strikes. Then also you can use your launch angle to help with these two ideas. So when you do these swing forts, these drills, also try and get a medium to lofted iron, so my 9-iron here, launching lower into the net. You'll be amazed at the amount of amateurs that I teach, and I've done videos on this where we measure their irons, like we get a group of 12 students come for lessons, And like 90% of them add loft to their irons at impact. Adding loft is a recipe for thinning and fatting. Taking loft off is a recipe for getting much better strikes up the face. So you can do this in a net, you can do it at a range, and watch your launch angle. I'm going to hit a shot here and you're going to see where it launches. So as the stream goes off there, it's a medium launch and it's tearing out. I've got the launch in front of me here. That launched at nearly 22 degrees. So I'm going to do the same ideas of those drills. So I'm going to get the feeling of that step as I stretch. But now what I'm going to do is the same idea and actually try and take loft off as I do it to get that lower fly. That one launching just under 19 degrees. I changed the dynamic loft with a feeling, and for most of you, you're adding loft, which is making the strikes way, way worse. Getting you to strike the ball with more compression, so de-lofting your irons, getting you to not get close and then stretch out on the way down, getting rid of that is so massive for improving people's strikes. This video is also helping people improve their strikes when it comes to understanding how to use your loft.